Assalamualaikum and hi, we are from group 3 and we will be talking about the anatomy and physiology of the human respiratory system. These are the members of our group and the presentation order will follow this list, starting with AMIRAH NAJIHAH and will be concluded by Muhammad ARIF. Now sit back and enjoy our video.
Alright, hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is AMIRAH NAJIHAH and I'm going to talk about the upper tract of the respiratory system. Now let's start. The first part is the nose. The air enters the body through the nose and passes through the nasal cavity, which is the interior portion of the nose. Next is nostril. Nostrils are the external opening of the nose. Next is nasal septum. Nasal septum is a wall of cartilage that divides the nose into two equal sections. A septum is a wall that separates two chambers. Cilia. Cilia are the thin hair located just inside the nostrils. It functions to filter the incoming air to remove debris. Mucous membrane. Mucous membrane are the line of the nose. This specialized tissue also line the digestive, reproductive, and urinary system, as well as other part of the respiratory system. Next is mucus. Mucus is slippery secretion produced by mucous membrane. This that protect and lubricate this tissue. In the nose, mucus help moisten, warm, and filter the air as it enters. Next is olfactory receptor. These receptors are the nerve ending that act as receptor for the sense of smell. They are also important for the sense of taste. These receptors are located in the mucous membrane in the upper part of the nasal cavity. Next is paranasal sinuses. Paranasal sinuses is an air-filled cavity lined with the mucous membrane that are located in the bone of the skull. There are four types of sinuses, which is frontal sinuses, sphenoid sinuses, maxillary sinuses, and also ethmoid sinuses. Alright, now let's move on to the next part of the upper tract of the respiratory system, which is the mouth. The mouth consists of several parts. The first one is tonsil. There are two types of tonsils, which is palatine tonsils, located at the back of the mouth. And next one is nasopharyngeal tonsils, located behind the nose and the roof of the mouth. Next is pharynx. Pharynx is commonly known as a throat. It divided into three different parts, which is nasopharynx, oropharynx, and laryngopharynx. Next is epiglottis, protecting shallowing mechanism. There are two types of mechanism that prevent food and water into trachea. The first one is soft palate. It moves up and backward to close off the nasopharynx. Meanwhile, the next one is epiglottis that swing downward and close off the laryngopharynx. Alright, next is larynx. Larynx, also known as the voice box. It is located between pharynx and trachea. The larynx is protected and supported by a series of 9 separate cartilage. The thyroid cartilage is the largest and commonly known as Adam's apple. Next is trachea. Trachea used to transport air to and from the lung. This tube is commonly known as the windpipe. It is located directly in front of the esophagus, and the trachea is held open by a series of flexible C-shaped cartilage rings.
Hello, my name is Nur under SAFIYA BINTI ROZAIDEE and I will talk about the lower respiratory tract, starting with the bronchi. The bronchi are two large tubes, also known as primary bronchi. These structures resemble an inverted tree, leading to the term bronchial tree. Within the lungs, each primary bronchus branches into smaller and smaller bronchioles, which are the thinnest branches of the bronchi. Second one is the alveoli, also known as air cells. These tiny grape-like clusters are located at the ends of the bronchioles and are where oxygen and carbon dioxide are exchanged. Each lung contains millions of alveoli. During breathing, the alveoli are filled with air from the bronchioles. A network of microscopic pulmonary capillaries surrounds the alveoli. Pulmonary refers to anything related to or affecting the lungs. The exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide between the air in the alveoli and the blood in the pulmonary capillaries occurs through the thin, elastic walls of the alveoli. The third one is the lungs, the essential organs of respiration, which are divided into sections called lobes. A lobe is a subdivision of an organ. The right lung, being larger, consists of 3 lobes, the upper, middle, and lower, also known as superior, middle, and inferior. In contrast, the left lung has only two lobes, the upper and the lower, because the heart occupies space on that side of the body. Next is the mediastinum, the central section of the chest cavity located between the lungs. This area contains connective tissue and various organs including the heart and its veins and arteries, the esophagus, trachea, bronchi and thymus gland, and lymph nodes. The last one for the lower respiratory tract is the pleura. The pleura is a thin, moist and slippery membrane that covers the outer surface of the lungs and lines the inner surface of the thoracic cavity. There are three types of pleura. The parietal pleura is the outer layer attached to the chest wall. Parietal refers to the walls of a cavity. The visceral pleura is the inner layer that directly covers each lung. Visceral refers to the internal organs. Lastly, the pleural cavity or pleural space is the thin, fluid-filled space between the parietal and visceral pleural membranes.
Now let's continue with the functions of the respiratory system. Before jumping into the specific functions of the respiratory system, let's look at the 6 general functions of the system, which are to deliver air into the lungs and convey oxygen from inhaled air to blood. Also, expel the waste through exhalation. It's also produce the airflow through the larynx, warms and add moisture to the air that we breathe in, and lastly is helping in balancing level of acidity in our body. Moving on to the specific functions of the respiratory system. As informed by the previous presenters, there are 2 parts of the respiratory system, which are the upper tract and the lower tract. There are 6 parts in the upper tract, which are the nose, trachea, pharynx, epiglottis, larynx, and the mouth. The first organ is the nose. The nose allows air to enter the body, and it also helps in filtering debris from entering our body. The second part is the trachea. It is commonly known as the windpipe. The main functions of the trachea is to carry air in and out of the lungs and provides a reliable pathway for oxygen to enter the body. The third part is pharynx. It is also known as the throat. Pharynx acts as a passageway for air to enter the larynx and the lungs. It also supports the respiratory and the digestive system, which helps the movement of the food into the esophagus. Moving on to the fourth part, which is the epiglottis. The organ allows air to be passed into the larynx and the lungs. It also acts as a lid that prevents foods and drinks from falling down the airway. While on the lower tracts, there are 5 parts, which are the lungs, bronchus, bronchiole, alveoli, and diaphragm. The functions of the bronchus is to carry air to and from the lungs and help to moisturize the air that we breathe and screen out foreign particles. Next is alveoli. Alveoli is commonly known as the air sacs. It is where the lungs and blood exchange oxygen and carbon dioxide. The alveoli also produce surfactant that reduces surface tension of the fluid in the lungs, preventing collapse during exhalation. And lastly is the bronchiole. These tubes conducts air from the larger bronchi to 300 million alveoli in the lungs, regulate airflow, and play a role in filtering, humidifying, and defending the respiratory tract. That's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Muhammad Arif bin Muhammad Hamizan, and I will continue for the next subtopic, which is respiratory process. First is the breathing or ventilation process. Breathing is the process of inhalation where air enters the lung and exhalation where air leaves the lungs. The diaphragm and ribcage movement adjust the chest cavity air pressure during inhalation and exhalation. The ability to breathe depends on the protection of the chest cavity. Airflow into the chest cavity can prevent breathing if there is a chest injury, but does not directly affect the lungs. That's why chest injury is very dangerous to us. Second is the inhalation process. During inhalation, the diaphragm contracts and moves down, while the muscle between the ribs also contracts. This simultaneous contraction causes the rib cage to expand outward and upward. Expansion of the rib cage increases the volume of the lungs. As lung volume increases, the pressure inside the lung decreases relative to the atmosphere. This causes the air to flow in and fill the lungs. And lastly is the exhalation process. During exhalation, the diaphragm and muscle relax, allowing the lungs to pull back inward. When the ribcage are retracted, the volume of the chest cavity decreases and compresses the lungs. This compression increases the air pressure in the lungs and makes it higher than atmospheric pressure. This causes air to be forced out into the breathing tube.